All right, let's call the meeting to order at 6:34. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Perhaps not. Are we getting a report from the facilities committee this evening?
Not a full report, no. No, we're still waiting for a full set of options from the architects.
And when are we going to have that?
Hopefully, at the next meeting, we'll be presented with the options we discussed in early May, so probably for the next school board meeting,
You mean September or June?
June.
Okay, well, I don't mean to be rude, but the only reason I came tonight was because I thought we were going to have that information finally. I have some other stuff I have to do. So you don't have to adjust the agenda on my account,
Okay.
because there's nothing there to hear, apparently.
And
Okay.
the facilities committee is meeting on June 6th.
Well, I have one adjustment. Does that mean you're going to be departing early, likely?
It does, yeah.
So maybe we want to
Move this up.
move this up. So we were going to make a 6.5 discussion matter, the proposed agenda for the retreat, but would you like to discuss that before?
No. If I think of anything, I'll be away for the retreat, so I won't be there anyway. But if I think of anything that I'd like on the work plan for the year, I'll give you a call.
Okay. Well, let's pass these down so that if you do leave before we get to 6.5, local retreat agenda framework, you at least have a copy of it. All right, audience and communication. And as a reminder, this is if anyone wants to ask a question or give a comment about something that is either not on the agenda or is an action matter. Yeah, and if you can just state your name for the cameras.
Carrie Spear.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. I actually plan on getting involved with school board meetings so that, like I said earlier, so that I have my own, here it said. So something I've been talking about for a little more than probably for a couple of years. It came to me about Pajama Day, and I do that because I work with students from CVU a few times a week at the store teaching how to work at the store and whatnot, and it's been very successful with about 5 kids now. And the first time I was introduced to Pajama Day was a few years ago when this great girl came in to work with her pajamas on. I was like, oh. So my next comment was, well, do we balance that with Dress for Success Day? And so I would be suggesting that as a community member and as a parent myself, I would like to see a Dress for Success balance off Pajama Day, because pajamas make you a little bit more laxed, and dressing up makes you seems like it makes you do a little bit better. And so I'd like to teach our children about the importance of dressing and whatnot. Now, they don't have to wear their best clothes by any means, but maybe there's a little boy out there that does want to wear a tie. I know one who would want to wear a tie to school. And so I would like to suggest that in the future, if you're talking about Pajama Day, to balance it.
I love that.
I do too. And I do know that for some, like when they do debate units and other things in the upper grades, they are
Absolutely.
encouraged to dress appropriately.
And when the kids on the soccer, on the school teams and whatnot, they come in and they've got their ties, and give them a little compliment that goes a long ways. So can't really do that with pajamas. It's really like, really? But I'll understand, because trying to understand the new little kids. But
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Anyone else? All right, moving on. We do not have any presentations tonight. 5.0 reports to the board. 5.1 principals report. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah. Any questions
You
about
wanna-
anything in the principal's report?
Is there anything you wanted to highlight?
Well, since there are a few people in the audience today, I'd like to thank publicly thank Abby, who's here, for all the great work that's outlined here in this report around 4 hours. Pardon me?
Are there extras?
Go ahead.
There are.
Sorry, I don't know. When did you get this? You got it tonight?
Only because I forgot to print it out.
Oh. Oh.
There's 2 more.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Craig.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
So thanks to Abby and Deirdre Holmes and a lot of other volunteers who have really spearheaded a lot of these efforts and helped to make them a reality. And also to Joe, who's also here tonight, helping to facilitate this donation of the laptops. While we're on the theme of donations, something that's not included in the report, but another celebration, I got a call from Patrice McIvern the other day, 2 days ago, who I guess his husband owns Heritage, and said they're giving away some furniture. It was on Facebook. So we were able to act quick and get over there, and we've got 4 nice round tables, 20 chairs, 4 2-drawer file cabinets, 3 that lock, which I can't tell you how much of a celebration that is, because that's like the biggest commodity in the world around here is a 2-drawer locking file cabinet. Am I forgetting anything? I think that's pretty much it, but all free. I mean, that's probably a couple $1,000s worth of furniture. So it's just a lot of good stuff. We're pleased with the way the water pipe leak panned out, and we're very pleased with the way the emergency relocation drill went, and have some ideas to make it even better in the future.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, 5.2 CSSU debrief and legislative update. I don't know if people have questions about that. The legislature kind of finished with a bang. The one question that just came up between Adore and me is the new school lunch. Does that have an impact on our budget, or is the difference between free and reduced lunch cost covered by the state?
I
Do we
thought the
know?
state was covering the cost. The thing that will have an impact on you is the lowering of the threshold to 121%. It's been at 125%. You've always stayed below 125, but not by much. So that will be a challenge.
Can you
And it's
explain
gonna
that?
go, so that's the legislation that says if you spend more than 125% of the average per pupil, you are penalized and paid twice, $2 for every dollar you spend above that threshold. When they lower the threshold, that means you're gonna bump up against it sooner. So we'll obviously, as soon as we start the budgeting process, figure out what that number is for you, and then have that in your thinking as you're going through the budget process.
If I remember correctly, that's supposed to happen over a number of years. It's not a straight shot.
It's 123 next year and 121
121 the year.
2 years later. So there is a declining.
Do you happen to know how our delegation voted on that?
I don't. I should. I don't. I'm gonna make a note of that. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? 5.3, third quarter financial management report.
Any questions about the report? We're pleased to report that we're moving in the right direction here.
I'm just thinking that the one thing we need to decide as a board is, we had a food service deficit last year of 19 that we just left hanging. And they're anticipating an $18,000 deficit for this year. So we need to decide if we're gonna cover, all or part of that with any, residual we have. And also thinking ahead if we wanna, whether or not we want to include a subsidy to food service in our budget for next year. So just 2 things to think about. We would decide at the June meeting, is that right, Elaine, if we're gonna cover
You could do that at the business meeting, June 24th.
Okay.
I'm just curious,
You want me to put that down?
the explanation wasn't totally clear to me, like, what some of those conditions were that caused them to go over.
Food service?
We're all looking down.
I know, someone else answer.
I mean,
I think,
go ahead.
go ahead. Basically, if you, the costs of purchasing the food exceeds the money that you bring in from students, you end up with that.
Right, no, just in that little paragraph, there's a thing about sort of the choices that they had to offer or something like that.
Oh, there was a change in the
change in the law.
requirements. There was a change in the requirements of what was included in the school lunch.
So they had to include more?
They had
or
to include
different
more
things?
and more vegetables, which are expensive. Yeah, they had.
So
to
I think,
change the-
yeah, so what this says, and I've heard this from other superintendents, this impacted the number of students who elected to take school lunch.
So in other words, kids
So
didn't
now-
want the
yeah,
vegetables, so.
There's some fixed costs in school lunch, so the more participation you have, the better you can manage the bottom line. And the new requirements dictate how much of vegetables you need to have, protein you need to have, and how little of carbs and that kind of thing. you
And
need to
also like whole grains. There's
Right.
some.
have. And I've heard other people, other superintendents talk about this, that this has been a little bit problematic.
And the size of some things, for example, bagels are
portions.
very popular portion size, so we used to offer larger bagels, but because of the portion sizes and regulations, they're smaller, so some kids don't like the smaller size, and then because of the whole wheat versus the white, so it's those type of regulations.
Okay,
that-
and those are federal
increase.
regulations?
Yes.
That's an example of one.
So
Right.
if we offered French fries, participation would go up, but
We're
And
not
ice
allowed
cream
to
and
do
those
that.
type of things.
Or
yeah.
whole milk?
Yeah, like no chocolate milk. There, yeah. So, in the interest of nutrition, we've lost
Right.
participants.
Would be an interesting study to see where the calculus is on that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, it would.
Although I think it's important to note that the deficit we're experiencing this year isn't unique to this year.
That's true.
You know,
Isn't.
just in relative to Kristen's comment about the board contemplating subsidizing, this is, you know, a trend that's been over many years.
And I guess that's almost good news, that as kids are getting used to the healthier choices at school, you know, the participation hasn't changed that much, so maybe it will help with childhood obesity and just overall health of our kids, but in any event, we'll need to decide as a board how much, if any, we're gonna cover of that deficit this year and whether or not we wanna budget for that in the next budget cycle.
So do you want to act on that at your June 24th meeting?
I think we should, right? There are any questions about the FMR? Yes.
Okay, so part of what the 4 Rs in Food Squad and the coordinating school health is hoping is that by growing food and having taste testing opportunities from food that students participate in growing will be that it will have, it will take a little while, but that it will have the outcome of increasing participation and subscribing to school lunch. And that's been shown to happen at other schools where there's a lively growing and composting program, like in Ferrisburg. They increased their school lunch participation by a lot.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
All right, 5.4 facilities update.
As I was saying earlier, we had a meeting in early May. Some options were brought to us in regards to updating or replacing this building. We've asked the architects and the planners to come up with a couple of other options and to look at costs and way to contain them. And we hope to have a report back from them June 6th, which is our next meeting. So I'll have a more full update at the June 24th meeting.
Thank you. All right, 6.0, 6.1 policy review. I don't know if we should go through each one, if people, if there's any, if people have discussion about any of the policies. Should we go through them one by one? I guess we might as well.
Cindy, do you have an extra copy of the packet that I sent out? I just didn't.
This one right here.
I'll take one too. I left
Yeah.
mine at work.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, then we can do a quick review. What Cindy's memo says is that the policy committee reviewed these at the March meeting. The first policy, D7, drug-free workplace. There's a few changes to this policy, including clarifying references to boards and school-sponsored events. This is a required policy. We could tinker with it, but I don't know, the changes are marked on the policy as presented from Cindy. Oh yeah, this is a different order.
They're in a different order. in my packet.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, they're in a different order in the packet. Let's see. Is D7 included in?
Yeah,
D17 is the first.
It's D10. Oh.
No, it's decent. It's on a back-facing page.
Yeah, D7. Oh, what page is it in my packet?
Okay. Oh, yeah. Anything on D7?
No.
Moving on, D10, mandatory drug and alcohol testing, transportation employees. And I don't even know that this really applies to us since we don't have transportation employees. We have a
Right.
contract with the bus
Right.
service. D11, job sharing, instructional positions. The committee recommends one change, which just changes the reference from superintendent to superintendent or designee. And we discussed whether or not it needs to be approved annually, and the entire policy committee thought it made sense to review job share requests every year. And that's been our tradition here. If there are other input on D11. D12, Family Medical Leave Act policy. The committee recommends rewording the policy statement for clarity and corrected 2 misspellings, and some language was added to comply with FMLA for military families. Anyone can jump in at any point if you have something to offer. D13, harassment of employees. It's updated by the administration. Oh, so that, we're not even considering that right now. It's being updated. D15, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act compliance. Committee is not recommending any changes to that. And D17, Teacher Supervision and Evaluation. Committee recommended adding language for clarification around developing teacher goals and the supervision and evaluation process and revisions to the committee reporting process. We have since revised language regarding regular reports to the board about the supervision and evaluation system. And just a reminder that this does not supplant the teacher supervision and evaluation process agreed to with the association and is otherwise outlined in the collective bargaining agreement.
So how does it impact us, or does it?
No, it does not impact the teacher supervision and evaluation system. This is the policy, right? Isn't that what you just said? It doesn't supplant the teacher supervision and evaluation process. So this just says how you're going to hear about what we do around supervision and evaluation. That they removed the language around
A committee that isn't,
a committee.
That doesn't exist.
Doesn't take away from the fact that yearly we're supervising and evaluating faculty according to a system and process that we have in place. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Pretty much. I just wasn't sure in practical terms
Right.
what effect that would have.
Well, the old language assumes a supervision and evaluation committee led by the chair of the CSSU, and that hasn't been so for a number of years.
Okay.
So that's part of it, to clarify and put in place what actually is.
What's already actually happening? Okay.
Right.
And then point number 2 was just, is that material? I mean, it's teacher goals, not administration
So what was struck was supervision and evaluation goals.
Right.
And,
And so it's just educator goals?
right.
So, and it's, and the other part is that principals will work with teachers. So the principals and the, is this right? Mariana?
yeah,
The
yeah,
principals and the teachers are working together to develop each teacher's goal. So, you know, it could vary a lot, I would imagine, from one teacher to the next. And then just making sure that those goals are linked to our action plans.
Right. So does that actually entail any different outcomes or processes than what we do now? So it looks like it went from you guys set the goals to now you collaborate with the teachers.
You can speak to that if you want, but
The goals, there, it's collaborative now.
it already is
Yeah.
collaborative. And it already is linked to supervision and evaluation, and it already is linked to current action plans. So when you're developing goals, you're looking at student data. You're considering any kind of work that you're doing, that you've observed in the classroom.
And based on observations of teachers.
Right.
So it's more just better
Cleaning it up.
expressing the
Right.
current
More
processes.
accurately describe it, right.
Is it you, Adora, that's on the policy committee on the board, or is it you,
No,
Chris?
Kristen.
Kristen?
All right. Any other questions? So I guess I'll let Cindy know that we don't have any additional input. 6.2, Communications Board Corner. Should we have a board corner for this upcoming?
I suppose we should always say something, right?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think we should say something unless we have something new to say. So, I think if we start saying things repetitively or without substance, people will stop reading it. That's just my take on it. Plus, it's making work for us, but that's the other part of it.
I have
Yeah,
a
the only
question.
thing, oh, go ahead.
Do we want to use that, or do we even want at all to solicit opinions or make the community aware that there is a contract negotiation this season? And that now would be the time to offer any community input? I mean, ultimately, they're not at the table, but they are going to be having to live with the outcome of those negotiations.
And I wonder, because I think.
There is a negotiations session next Tuesday? Is it the 28th, right?
Well, I was thinking, I think the common topic in September, isn't it, is going to be
Negotiations.
Negotiations 101 to teach all of us about that, and I wonder if that might be a good time to invite the community to come
It's a really
It
good.
will
to learn about it, and then to be able to offer.
And it will still be ahead of formal negotiations.
Because, yeah, I mean, obviously I've been to meetings where there's some disappointment at the outcome, and if maybe people
Right.
knew and felt like they were involved or somehow had a voice
Yeah.
earlier in the process, it would avoid some of the
So
angst
that might be a
afterwards.
very good September.
Yeah, because I just think
Board
if
communication.
they also, if some of the people who are going to offer an opinion also have that sort of same education around it with us, that might,
That would be
get
ideal,
really
but
constructive
that will
input
occur
from our
at
community.
CVU, right? As a common topic.
yeah.
That would be ideal. People would come out and do that.
Well, it will be taped also.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right.
even if
Oh,
people
right.
aren't at CVU, they
That's
can
right.
watch it on RETN. Thank you, RETN.
So if
And I'm sorry, the negotiations start in
early October.
early October.
So the common topic occurs,
The second Wednesday in September,
and our meeting is the third
Tuesday.
Tuesday. So we could encourage people to come to that board meeting and encourage them to have viewed.
Right.
So actually, we
So
would
tell me
need like
again-
an August board corner saying, we're gonna have this, and, you know, we'll take all your input about what you think is important for the budget, but also you might wanna come.
And tell me again exactly what the common topic is. It's going to be,
What's it called? I think it's called
Contract
Negotiations
Negotiations
101. So it's a
Like, how does it all work?
basic sort of class for all the board members and the community about what the process is and.
and that's going to be presented by whom?
Negotiations 101?
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's going to do that. Could be Cindy. Might be Cindy. Could be Cindy Cannon and Warren. I might do
And is that going to sort of be a general topic, or will it touch on some particular elements of our negotiation process as it's being defined right now? In other words, are they going to tell people that these are the ground rules that we've already set?
If you have.
Because it sounds like that's what's going on
That's
now,
what's,
right?
that's what they're working on now, and there's another meeting next Tuesday. So depending on where that group gets, if they can agree mutually to ground rules, then that would be part of the September.
Because now might be a time,
That's a goal for sure.
yeah, and I think if for this board and for the community, if open meeting,
They're going for that, and that's what they're trying for.
well, that's what I'm saying. If
But
that's
it's
an
a
important,
negotiation, so both sides get to, have to agree to that.
maybe that's something that's a great board corner. Explain what open versus closed is, why that matters, and you know, because it's kind of, that's one thing that in August or September it'll be too late. And if folks realize it would have been something that was important or useful or,
Right. But just to be really clear, and maybe you know this, but it wouldn't matter if like 12,000 people said we weren't open. It's the people who are sitting around that table agreeing to the ground rules. Who have to,
Exactly.
both sides have to agree. So we have to be careful that we don't do anything that causes the other side to go, well, never mind, I don't want to play ball. Do you know what I'm saying? I just think that like it would make sense for us to at least wait till after Tuesday when there's the next meeting. And, you know, maybe they're going to say they're going to have, that they'll go along with open negotiations. They know that that's what we're asking for. That's been clear from the get-go. So we wouldn't want to take a misstep and kind of like jump the gun, write an article, somebody reads it and goes, wait a minute, we've never even agreed to this yet, and they're starting a campaign to, you know, get people to
Well,
weigh
yeah,
in.
and I guess would the article be after, so the meeting's this
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
It would be
And when-
Thursday at the earliest.
The meeting is on the 28th. I think it's Tuesday.
So when's the next?
I know, I should have looked at the,
Well, so there's a paper due on this Thursday, the 23rd, so 2 weeks later, so June
oh, so it's after.
7th-ish.
Will be after that training.
And at the training, do you think that you're going to agree on ground rules?
I
There
think
certainly
that
could be
we're
an-
gonna
there-
try.
There certainly could be a board corner about what happened there. What agreements do people come to? What are the things that get sorted out?
Or at least one of the topics, yeah.
yeah, so there's a fine line between stirring something up
Right.
and actually
And informing.
informing,
Right.
and even,
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, if people are sitting around negotiating and they don't think that anybody's watching them, they might make a choice that, you know, they wouldn't make if they knew people were watching and you know, I mean, I
So communication, I know, is one of the areas that the subcommittee is really working on too. So working on what are we going to do around ground rules and how are we going to communicate so that it's respectful on both sides. People don't feel like they've been ambushed or, you know, set up. So that's going to be part of the continuing work, which is one of the reasons that, you know, we've established this committee for this year so that when we start the actual negotiations, people understand, you know, beyond the ground rules, how we're going to behave around the table. And there's been some really open conversations around what didn't feel so good to the board last year and what didn't feel so good to the association last year.
Right.
Not last year, last time around.
yeah.
Well, I
And just
wonder
think
if on the
yeah.
31st, we have a retreat, maybe that meeting will have gone by. So maybe at that point, we can say, what do we want to put, because we could still meet that Monday deadline. So maybe we want to put off any decision about what to put in there till after we know how that
And
went.
there
Does
was a
that make sense?
negotiation session at the retreat. You'll see that. for
Is that really
everybody.
just 15 minutes?
No, it's half an hour, I think. 11:45 to 12:15. Half an hour, and if it goes into the lunch period a little bit, that's fine. The lunch will
Yeah.
still be there. Yeah.
I just think, as a
Yeah.
general principle,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
there's a
It's a
way
good
to,
thought, yeah.
you know, both the two sides are asking each other how they feel, but nobody's asked the
Right.
taxpayers how they feel.
Yeah. So that's good. So let's,
I would also say if you come up empty because it's just not the right time and everybody decides there's a better time to do that particular board corner, you might consider doing a board corner every June that is like, hey, world, here are our graduates. We've got this many graduates, here are some little key things about them and some highlights and points of pride about this particular class. Might be a really nice thing to do at the end of the year for the board that really is charged with advocating for all of the kids in the community and the stewards of education in Charlotte. So that might be, just to
Like that
give an
idea a
idea,
lot.
you know, it can be like every year in June, we do an article that is, we're so proud. Here's,
I
here
think
are
that's a
students.
very good idea.
yeah, I was thinking that too. It's
like
also
that.
an invitation that everyone's welcome to attend. It is, the graduation here is really
Very
nice. It's really,
yeah.
really nice.
is.
You could also choose to add a paragraph about the Charlotte CBU grads
Oh, yeah,
and just some facts about that group.
yeah, that's a great
Maybe
idea.
your 8th grade
Yeah,
Yeah.
highlight, and by the
Yeah.
way,
right, I like that.
All right, so we can think about this in advance
That's a
of the 31st.
That's a great idea.
First, and I guess even if we put a negotiations piece in the first June, we could always still do the graduate highlight in the second June paper. That's great. All right, 6.3 budget debrief.
that's a big class.
And I guess this is our opportunity to talk about the budget process from this year, what we think worked, what we think didn't work, or things that we think we want, you know, as we approach the next budget season that starts in September. So I don't know if anyone wants to jump in with any observations or thoughts, or if Elaine, you want to?
Well, we know you will not be facing the 2 votes, right? I mean, that's
Not be
one
facing
good
the 2
thing.
votes.
There was a lot of positive feedback about the budget buddy system.
Okay.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, that was good. I know you didn't love it, but it was good that you were here. It was, it really was.
I mean, the whole thing that we always want is the information earlier and sooner, and we wish we had the state data
Yeah.
before we're doing a budget, but,
Abby has something to say.
So it's sort of in this same spirit of what I think Eric is suggesting about negotiations, is just the more information, which is what you just said, but the more information that's out there, where it's really sort of balanced and giving manifold perspectives, the sooner the better, the more shared, the more welcomed in, the better, it seems to me. I mean, my comment about Budget Buddy was, it just already seems so late, and I didn't have the information. And so I don't know how how the role of the board versus the role of administration and the supervisory union, how that, I don't really understand all of that. But it seems to me there's something in the current system that is maybe impeding a little more light on full information. I don't know what it is.
okay.
I'm making a note of that.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, the way that played out, it was frustrating. We asked for a hopes and dreams budget, and then we had to not only not include any of that, but dig deeper, so that was frustrating, but.
Yeah. I mean, it could be that you need to make an honest assessment at the front end and decide whether you're asking somebody to develop a hopes and dreams budget, or you're saying, it looks like this is what we've got to work with. What's the best you can do with this? What can we do with this? Are there some creative things we can do? As opposed to, you start with so much on the plate, and hopes and dreams really are that. They're like looking at a vision out there and everybody gets excited about it. So then when you have to cut beyond that,
Yeah.
it just doesn't feel
Demoralizing,
right.
yeah.
All around.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's part of it, to have that really honest conversation. What do the numbers look like right now for us? What's
And-
that going to mean in terms of this budget process?
And the reality, if we do see some significant savings, if we go with a configuration committee, does that mean we're just saying everyone's taxes are lower, or that gives us an opportunity to make some investment in
And
some
that's-
of those hopes and dreams?
That's the honest conversation the board
Yeah.
needs to have. And maybe not just with the board, but maybe with the community. When you have that first forum in October where you say, please come in and tell us what your hopes and dreams are, maybe it's a different conversation. Maybe it's like, this is what we're looking at. This is what we think we're dealing with. So should we invest in some hopes and dreams, or should we, and kind of get a sense of where people are?
I do think, the public, quite a few people came. It's in other years, there have been more or less, but quite a few people came, and people who came, I think we're mostly saying, please don't cut everything, please
Right.
don't, it's already bare bones, don't pull it back anymore. And then, some other people said, well, this isn't representative of the greater Sherlock community, which is always difficult to tell if people don't come. And then you find out on voting day.
Right.
We did do that one forum one year, Elaine, where, and it wasn't a huge number of people there who didn't have students currently at CCS, but where we sort of broke off into
Yeah.
small groups and talked about things and put things up on. So I wonder
Yeah,
if a less formal, we just present the budget, but sort of a more, people break out in groups and talk about what they think is
Right.
important.
That's definitely doable.
And then that might help sell what we ultimately arrive at as a budget to the community if more people help fashion it.
It was in the multipurpose room, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a pretty good turnout. It wasn't huge, but. Yeah, and there are a lot of times when people will say things in a smaller group and will even allow their thinking to get shifted in a smaller group that they won't once they've made a statement in a large public group. So-
Well, maybe, I don't think I was on the board then, but maybe I'll ask Lynn or Patrice if they remember.
Are you talking about when Ray Prue came?
No,
That was at action planning, yeah.
no, this wasn't, this
No,
was,
specifically budget.
yeah. It was- I think it was the same year that we had the Challenge for Change, because I kind of remember doing that presentation for everybody. Here's our challenge. So therefore, what do we want to do about this? How do we want to deal with this? And what was good about that partly was for the community to see that we're in a bind ourselves. You know what I mean? We're dealing with, in that case, a number that's generated out of Montpelier. Here's what you've got to deal with. Do you remember that? You were here then,
It
right?
was our first year.
Yeah.
It was in the NPR when we sat.
Right.
And we broke into little
I think we
groups.
could figure something out like that. We'd have to figure out, like, what are the things that you want people to talk about? What do you want them to be thinking?
What, Greg and Audrey, what did you think of the budget process this year?
There were some sequence things that were, I think, maybe unique to this year, that were created some tough weeks and moments, around like the kindergarten study committee, and then the configuration committee, and then the vision budget mixed in there, and sort of how that kind of played out, all the work around the kindergarten study, and then that presentation almost coincided when we got the news, when we kind of had the realization of the landscape. Because prior to that, there wasn't really that sense of this is where we're headed, budget-wise, or at least it didn't seem to be out there. And then that seemed to coincide, those two moments of here's what this study committee is recommending, and here's what the budget's looking like. And then sort of the same kind of
In
thing with the
March.
vision budget, and then, so there was some sequence things interesting, and some of them were preset already in the work plan. So, it's just the way it worked out.
So that's it, when we're working on the work plan at the retreat, that's something to, I mean, not that we,
Right.
not that we put the stuff in, we say what we want in there and they try to, the central office tries to coordinate those, but it is something to think about, the things that impact budget, the earlier we get them, the better it is.
Right, and I think that was the intention with the kindergarten study. I
Yeah.
remember hustling to get that done.
And it was also the intention for the K-8 configuration committee, but we had not finished our work, and so we
Right.
had to bump it to March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One suggestion I would have, it's easier said than done because it's going to require if you did something like this, it would require somebody's time and effort and a little bit of money probably, but if you give a board member or a community member a printout with like 1 million numbers on it, even if you're good at math, it's hard to digest all that and look at it and you don't have a calculator. And then you're preparing slideshows with PowerPoints with numbers. If we had one database spreadsheet, whatever you want, that had all the numbers and all the formulas, so if you changed one thing, it would recalculate everything else, present it in a way that was understandable. If all the board members had that, administration. So everybody wasn't like scratching, taking notes, like, okay, if we cut the 3,000 here and we add the laptop cards, and how much does that come out? Scrambling to get together
Yeah.
a PowerPoint presentation. I mean, even if it were sort of user-friendly enough, you could stick it on the website.
Yeah.
Community members could see what's in the budget. Because right now, as it stands, you have to go in, find the page, download the file. It's a printout. It's not actually anything particularly user-friendly. It's just a
PDF.
hard copy of
Yeah.
this. It could be on front page forum. I mean, I think in the spirit of sort of, Abby said, the more people know, the more comfortable they are with it. It would just make our job easier. It would make the discussion easier because we'd all be looking at the same set of numbers and the same outcomes. And I was an audience member last year, but we'd discuss, or you guys would discuss a few things, and it was this, that, and the other, and you go back and you try to
Estimate how much.
update your
go-
numbers
yeah.
and kind of figure it out, and then that impacts the formulas, right? How much are you under or over well, I guess the two-vote thing's gone, but there are different formulas, and they're changing year to year. Threshold, what the state, I mean, all that data's there, right? State average spending numbers, base spending, the inflation figures, they use all that. Because I think right now, I assume we just get numbers from Bob, sort of the end product, right?
Yeah, I can see that we'd want to have some discussion about like the grain size. At what grain size do people have access to the numbers? 'Cause
Exactly.
It wouldn't really be helpful if people went, well, you know what,
Correct.
if we pulled out this spelling program in grade 2, that's not the work of the board or the community.
Right, for the board, it would be nice to have something that's kind of live, and we could share it, almost like a shared document. For the
Right.
board, or for the community, I agree with you, like, people just don't even have any sense of scale
Right.
of how much do we pay for teachers versus how much do we pay for,
Yeah, so the
administration
sim-
versus the
Right.
schools keeping the roof from leaking and stuff like that. They don't know within,
What's fixed costs
Huge.
and what's, yep.
20% plus or minus, they don't know kind of where the money's being spent.
That sounds like a great idea.
Now, who
I wonder
would
if it
do
can
how, I
work.
don't know.
I wonder if there's an app for that.
I know.
Yeah. It's a Bob conversation.
Yeah.
I'm making lots of notes here to.
So Elaine can maybe, find out from Bob if it's even possible.
And at
and
what
who we go
level.
to try to,
Because it's all the same numbers, right? Even if you made it more big picture in one format and more, detail oriented for the board members, it's still the same numbers at the end of the day, right? It's one database and it would just be a different way of presenting it.
did you have,
Well, actually, I had somebody ask me today a question that would be answered by that, what you're talking about. So that would be helpful to some community members, for sure.
Do you mind saying what the question was, Carrie?
Well, actually, So that's a hard question. He wanted to know how many teachers there were with actual classrooms teaching in the classroom versus how much administration there was, support, you know. I don't know exactly what that includes because it's not my question, but
Right.
I understood what he was saying.
Right.
And he said he's asked that question 2 times already and has not gotten an answer. So it was just really by chance that I just happened to mention to him that I was going to, come here tonight. And Mark, you indicated the other night that you'd be glad to hear my questions. And I said then that they're not all my questions because people ask me questions and then I end up wanting to know the answer to those questions.
That's a pretty straightforward
Yeah, that's
question,
in the
though. I
town
mean, we
report
have,
even.
I can't tell you exactly what the answer to
Okay.
that is, but
Well,
that
then-
answer is,
So if somebody could get
We
that
could-
answer
we could
to
get
me,
that
then I
answer to
can
you.
give it to that person and he can see if that is what he indeed was asking, I guess. So again, I don't really always ask all the details, like who, how come, who'd you ask? I didn't ask any of that. I just,
But that's the kind of thing, like somebody here should know it, and if we don't know it, it should be somewhere
yeah,
right at our fingertips.
it is a knowable,
and this is actually a new member of the community who would, will be residing, I'm sure, for the rest of their lives here and will be interested to know
Yep.
other things, and that's the start. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so I think we'll be circling back to budget stuff as we get closer to September. So anything else that anyone thinks of that would help us in making good choices and in getting input from the community, keep them in mind for the next time. 6.4, Act 153 assessments. So Act 153 is the state law that is now putting special ed at the supervisory union level. And we're going to talk about this at the retreat.
Yep.
I don't know if we need to go
I
into
don't
that
think you
more.
need
We're
to
going to have
tonight.
some
We're-
data from...
yeah, Bob is putting data together
We have
on
some
this.
data from Bob. Our costs in Charlotte are less expensive than some of the other schools, so that is some good news for our school. But how we go forward in paying for special ed, we'll talk about more at the retreat. I guess we'll talk about it more at the retreat. We'll have handouts from Bob at that time. And if, I guess we'll just get all the retreat information to Clyde
Yes.
at some point,
yeah.
since he will not be there.
See.
All right, 6.5, local retreat agenda framework, which we passed out. And anyone's welcome to come to the retreat. It's on the 31st at, I don't even know, is it at the Sheraton?
No, this year it isn't. It is at Sunset Ballroom, right next to the Holiday Inn Express on Shelburne
Oh, on
Road.
Shelburne Road. Oh, even closer for us.
Yes.
Okay. So the first part of the day is the Charlotte portion of the meeting. Negotiations are before lunch, and the negotiations part will be executive session at 11:45. And then the CSSU portion will start at 1. Originally, it was going to be after lunch, but, some people might only choose to stay for their local board and then go back to work or wherever in the afternoon. Do we expect how long the CSSU part?
I haven't mapped that all out. I'm thinking 3 hours,
3 hours, okay.
2.5, 3 hours. No later than 4.
Okay. Just in case people have child care issues, you might want to
You will know that
for
before you get there, because you'll get the agenda.
Okay, so we'll
ahead of
get
time.
the agenda ahead of time. So I don't know if people have had a chance to look at that. It's sort of how, a similar format that's been rolling for these retreats for the last several years at least.
I mean, the basic idea is that both administration and board get a chance to look out the rearview mirror and say, how did the year go? Based on the goals that we set for ourselves, on our action plans, on the initiatives that we've got rolling. And then kind of pivoting to, what are we expecting in the next year? Administration does that first. That sets the stage for the board to do that. And out of that is the development of the work plan. And the work plan is what determines what your agendas are each month. So kind of in a nutshell, that's what the retreat's about.
Do we get, like a mock-up of the work plan to work from?
I am going to bring a mock-up of the work
You
plan
are?
to work from, but what I want to caution you is, I don't want you to plug in on particular dates. You can say, we would like this to be in October. But one of the things I need to do, since there are 5 boards, is that if there's like a data request, let's say you all want to do, I don't know, something that requires data from Sue Hepner. I don't want her to have to do that 5 times. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So if there are 3 boards that want to do that, then make sure that, okay, October looks like a good month for that. That said, you can make that list and say, we would hope that this could be this month, that month. And I've got the note that you said, if there's anything that's going to impact budget, make sure that comes at the front end. So we try to keep track of that, but we develop the work plans for all the boards in a 1 to 2 day period at the central office with everybody there looking at all of the information that we have to try to make sense of all of it. So you guys do get to say what you want on your work plan. We like to move it around.
And so you might, in advance of the retreat, want to either look at or print out the current work plan from the website.
I will bring the current work plan for you guys.
Yeah, but if we want to do pre-thinking,
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
okay.
All right. Moving right along. We are at 7.0, action matters, none. 8.0, consent agenda. Is there a need to pull anything out of the consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, 9.0, director's comments.
I have a comment.
Excellent.
I would like to congratulate the Charlotte Central GOB team, which won the state championship.
It did?
Yeah.
It is, including,
Newsletter last week.
including, not Shane Beal, Evan Beal, yes? Including Evan.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good, congratulations.
So thanks to, all the
Celeste.
teacher support and
That's excellent.
That is excellent.
Do you have any, Mark?
No comments.
I don't either.
Well, I just wanted to congratulate the Jenny Cianciola and the honor choir. They were down in Rutland, Middlebury.
I think Middlebury.
Middlebury. I think it was quite a group from Charlotte went. I also want to congratulate Andy Smith and the stage band, who had an excellent concert at CVU. I'm sure Eric was there. And then they went on the next day to an adjudicated performance at Johnson State College, and then they get little workshops after. They received a score of outstanding by the faculty.
Wow.
And I also wanted to congratulate Joe's daughter, Jasmine, who received recognition and award from Vermont Public Television. That was great. Congratulations.
Beautiful book.
Yes. So, 10.0, confirm next meeting dates. There probably is not a policy committee meeting. These are all, that was today already, sorry. Our board retreat, May 31st at 8 a.m. at the Sunset Ballroom on Shelburne Road. We have a CSSU board business meeting, June 24th at 5:30. And are the 3 of you all planning to attend on the 24th?
Yep.
I'm going to be out of town at a wedding, so I just wanted to make sure that we will have a quorum.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. And I almost feel like, I think Clyde said he could be there, but I'll follow up with him as well.
I can't recall. Are administrators expected at that meeting?
You
The
do.
business meeting?
You do not need to be there.
Okay.
unless we add something else to the agenda, really, it's the tax anticipation notes. It's a 20-minute meeting.
Short, yeah.
It's a really short meeting. and
Well,
it's
and we
all
also are
business
going
stuff.
to, what did we say we're putting on that agenda?
Well, the discussion around no, not that meeting. At the retreat, you talked about putting the discussion around board corners.
No, June 20, we did just say we were gonna, it was before that.
Oh, food service deficit.
Yeah, food service
Oh, yeah.
deficit, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's make sure that's on there. And is there a need, will there be a need to, I guess we need to get people's schedules in the event that we need to do a summer meeting? Do we anticipate that we would need that for hires or for?
Usually at this meeting, the business meeting, the board will authorize the chair to sign any personnel action forms that come in or contracts that come in during the summer, and then they get affirmed by the board at the very next meeting.
Okay.
So that keeps everything going.
We have had summer.
I know, I phoned in
Meetings,
from
though.
Pennsylvania last year, and I know we've had a
was
few,
that
but maybe there were things looming that required attention.
I mean, there are always things, I mean, we could get a slew of kids
That come in again.
that impact staffing.
Okay.
I mean, that, I remember.
Oh, was
that's
that
come up.
it? That might have been it.
That's what we met.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
July
I
we
think
met.
that's what
discussed that.
happened.
So I guess if things come up, then we'll schedule a special meeting, and
Pull in
really with
whoever we
technology
can.
and
Yeah.
Skyping, we can probably make that work easier than in the past.
Yep.
Okay. All right, 11.0, adjournment. Thank you.
Well, 7:30.